If you were in charge of the Mac division at Apple, what would be your number one priority?
I could say increase the free limit for iCloud if we're talking services, but I'm actually going to go.
Welcome to Macpreneur, the show for seasoned solopreneurs looking to streamline their business on a Mac. Unlock the secrets to saving time and money with your host and technology mentor, Damien Schroers.
Hello. In today's show, I have the pleasure to welcome Joe Casabona. He's a podcast systems coach who helps busy solopreneurs take back their time. Some even say that he perfectly blends content creation and technology like it's the best cup of coffee you've ever had. Yes, he says that. Joe's strategies come from his many years of experience, over 10 years creating podcasts, more than 15 years teaching, and over 20 years as a web developer. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. We have many points in common, and we are both fans of David Sparks, aka Max Sparky. We have similar tools, and I think we'll go into that actually right now. So what's your current Mac setup?
I have we'll say my A machine, right? The main machine I work on is my Mac Studio with the studio display and the Elgato prompter as a secondary display, which when I'm not using to adjust the camera, I have some widgets on there for time tracking. And then my B machine is a brand new, is it M3? Are we on M4 right now? It's the I think it's M3 MacBook Air. Right, because the
Yes.
iPad Pro is the only one with the M4 right now as we record this. So M3 MacBook Air in midnight. It is gorgeous and it's super fast and I love it. So I also have a Mac Mini that I'm using as kind of a server of sorts. Sadly, I haven't been able to get the Pushcuts Mac app to work on that though. So hopefully soon. But I have three Macs. That sounds really excessive now. I guess maybe not for this audience.
Yeah, I guess not. And so I'm curious, yes, for the MacBook Air, how often do you use it? And in which context?
Yeah, that's a great question. I like to work from coffee shops and stuff like that. And for a while, I was like really trying to make my 11-inch iPad Pro like my travel computer, but I'm just a lot more comfortable on a Mac. And so I always have the laptop for conferences or for working outside the house, especially when I'm not recording, but I do a lot of writing as well. And I like to do that from other places, either in the house or I have a shed that's kind of like a man cave. So I'll go out there and write and have a cigar. And yeah, so I probably use, it's probably like a 60-40 split, to be honest with you, between my Mac Studio and my MacBook Air.
Wow. Yeah, because I have an iMac and a MacBook Pro, but I rarely use the MacBook Pro. It's really, for me, in my mind, like the work machine. I go into my office, it cannot move,
Yeah.
so I'm not tempted to use it outside of office hours or things like that. But wow, so yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I've got three little kids
And
running around in the house, and so sometimes I'll just go, instead of, especially again like in the summer, instead of like telling them they can't make a lot of noise because they're three small children. If I'm not recording, I'll find a secondary location to work, and usually that context switch kind of helps me get the juices flowing too.
so maybe another question would be, okay, how do you get your two computers in sync, right? I think that's a major problem for my audience.
Yeah, it's tough. Before the Mac Studio, I had the original iMac Pro basically from the moment it came out. And so I decided, like 5 years of cruft, I was just going to start the Mac Studio from scratch. And so as far as tools go, I basically download the ones I need as needed, and I'm a set app subscriber, so like that's usually pretty easy. I use a lot of set app tools. And then all of the files I need are either in iCloud Drive or Dropbox. And so I use Obsidian for my note taking. I use Ulysses for writing. And so all of that stuff, all of my data, thankfully, is automatically synced. And so it's really kind of like an as needed. Like I don't have ScreenFlow on my MacBook Air because while the processor is actually more capable now, right? Because the Mac Studio has an M1. The Mac Studio is where I do all of my editing because bigger screen, more RAM in the Mac Studio, better graphics card. So yeah, I think it's very tools based and context based for me. And so I downloaded the core apps that I need, and all of my data is synced somewhere in the cloud.
Yeah, I must say, I've been a setup subscriber now for less than a year or about a year. And it's really, for me, was a game changer to be able to install the same apps on my two machines. And yeah, it's a great service.
Yeah, I was a little bit iffy. I was like on the verge of canceling, and then they landed Ulysses on setup, and I'm like, well, now it's like kind of dumb for me to cancel because it just like eliminated one expense. And I think like adding the iOS support was big as well. That got me to move from like the $10 plan to the $16 plan or whatever.
It's funny because for me, it's exactly the reason why I started the setup is for Ulysses because I was still on the older version. So before they started the subscription service, but it was not easy to have access to all my files everywhere. And then at one point it says I was fed up. And I say, okay, no. And I debated, okay, so do I go with setup? I pay a little bit more per month, but I get all those apps, or do I pay the subscription for Ulysses? And I don't regret at all to have gone the setup route. And so apart from those apps, so Ulysses and Obsidian, what else do you use on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think if we're looking, I mean, especially at like Mac specific apps, right? Ecamm Live is so important to my setup. I record a lot, and basically all of the video I record, all of my live streaming, any solo episodes that I do of my podcasts are all recorded in Ecamm Live. And it just makes editing video so much easier because instead of having to like add those overlays in ScreenFlow, I add them in scenes in Ecamm Live. So I think far and away, that's the one that saves me the most time. And then other apps, Things 3, even if it's not as functional as say OmniFocus or Todoist, I just find Things 3 is really nice to look at. And that's what I have decided I value in a to-do app. And Timery, of course, right? We're both fans of David Sparks. And I have, on my Stream Deck, I have 10 buttons dedicated to saved timers just to make time tracking as easy as possible. So that wouldn't be possible without it. I mean, it would be, but like Toggle's meh, and Timery is just so good. And then the last one I'll mention is Ice, which is a bartender alternative. I was a very big bartender fan until a couple of months ago. And I mean, I don't know anything about the new owners. I just don't really like the way it was handled. And the fact that the app requires a lot of access gave me pause. So Ice is a free open source alternative, and it's been great. I have barely noticed that I switched. For those who don't know, it's like the menu bar management, because behind that, I have a lot of menu bar icons that I'd rather not see.
Yeah, I'm still on Bartender because on my main machine, I'm still on Ventura.
Okay.
I'm not yet on Sonoma. And if I remember correctly, Ice requires Sonoma.
Gotcha.
At the moment.
Gotcha. I guess going back, this is another reason I like having a laptop is because I'm on the beta for, I don't even remember the name now, but the latest Mac OS beta. Sequoia. Right.
In a recent episode, at the time of recording, so it was in end of July, I had an episode all about should Solopreneur beta test macOS and how to do it safely and stuff like that. So I'm really happy that you're telling I'm doing that on my secondary Mac.
Yeah, well, I mean, I use a couple of apps from Rogue Amoeba, and they're just like wholesale. Nope, you can't use our tools with the betas. So definitely not on my production machine. Though I'm living a little dangerously. I put the 18.1 developer beta on my iPhone. I'm regretting it a little bit, but it's fine. It's just a phone, I guess.
So you have the 18.1 with the Apple Intelligence features?
Yeah. The summaries are neat. They could probably use a little bit of work. The suggested text is pretty good. And I'm keen. I don't think I've gotten the like recommended focus modes or the smart notifications yet. Or at least I haven't seen them. Maybe it's still learning, but yeah, I don't know. I would say that again, if it's your primary device, I wouldn't do it. There are a few buggy things, and like Carrot Weather's widgets don't work in 18.1. I just kind of like cowboyed it, and I was like, well, the 18.0 public beta is running fine. How different can the 18.1 developer beta be? It's pretty different. Pretty different.
So I wanted to circle back to the Stream Deck. Could you explain a little bit? So for my audience, I don't think everyone is really aware or understand the value of the Stream Deck, and maybe go with a few examples of how you use it. You mentioned Timery, but what else do you use the Stream Deck for, and why do you love it so much?
Yeah, so I think I'll start with maybe the most common argument against the Stream Deck, which is you can just do keyboard shortcuts, right? And that's absolutely true. And I have a lot of keyboard shortcuts, like Carabiner is another app I like that caps lock is now that like super modifier key, right? But first of all, there's a lot of things to remember. And seeing an icon associated with your shortcut is a lot easier than going, now, was this Control F or Control Shift Y? I see the timers and the labels on my Stream Deck, and that's a lot faster for me. So I'm living a double Stream Deck life. I've got the Stream Deck XL and the Stream Deck Plus, which is the one with the knobs. And on the Stream Deck XL, I have a lot of timers because I do want to time track properly. Like that was one of my goals for this year. I also have controls across the bottom for Zoom, to mute, to unmute, to record the meeting, to end the meeting, and things like that. I have a row of buttons for like my most common websites that I visit. And that's like my personal website, my blog, my podcast. I have the Apple Music buttons here. And then I have an entire page dedicated to Ecamm Live. And so I can easily switch. I don't know how many people will see this video, but I can switch between my cameras and different views and things like that, which again makes video editing a lot easier. So that's the Stream Deck XL. It's a lot of production and timing stuff. Over on the Stream Deck Plus, I have a couple of I actually don't use the buttons on this very often, but the knobs I will use to control my lights. And before we started recording, I mentioned that my power went out. And I also mentioned I use my Mac Mini as one of the things I use it as a Homebridge server. And so I can't control my lights in real time right now because I forgot to turn that back on. But that's one of the things I'll do is I'll change the lighting. And then I also have buttons dedicated to ScreenFlow, thanks to David Sparks. And I have buttons dedicated to the Elgato prompter. So like when I'm actually using it as a teleprompter, it's very easy for me to control the teleprompter without looking down or breaking eye contact, which was always like a problem I had using like one of the teleprompter apps. Is it's like, oh man, if I mess up, I need to like stop the app and look, and it's a very disjointed situation, but not with the prompter and the Stream Deck.
Now that we're recording this, I realize I need that device because if I remember correctly, David Sparks use it for Zoom meetings. At the moment, so people who look at the YouTube video, they will notice that my gaze is either at the camera or going down. And going down, it's actually, I'm looking at Joe. I want to see what Joe is saying. And so now I realize that if I had that Elgato, I could put the Squadcast, the Chrome window, inside the teleprompter. And yeah, so that's on my to-do list.
Yeah,
now.
this is exactly how I have it set up, right? Where it's the Squadcast window is up here, so I can always kind of maintain eye contact.
Yeah, I need that. So what kind of tip or trick you discovered recently on your Mac that you wished that you knew before?
This is a really good question. This might be a cop-out. Well, I mean, so I'm using the beta on my laptop, and so like the new features are really good, right? Like iPhone mirroring is there now, and that's really neat. Like getting iPhone notifications on your computer is really neat, and then like clicking it to open up the kind of virtual iPhone is really cool. I like that a lot. But I'm again, this is a little bit of a cop out, but I've started using Apple Notes again. And while I love Bear Notes, I am getting my Markdown fix from Obsidian. And I find that just like input into Apple Notes is a little bit faster. So when I want to capture something quickly, Notes is there. But something I've been using a whole lot is the like convert written like handwriting to text. And again, I'm not sure if this is a beta because I've just started using Apple Notes again, but it's really good. So I'll write a note on my iPad and then I'll be able to like grab the text and put it somewhere else, like on my Mac. So that's been like kind of a game changer for me because I love writing handwritten notes and I hate moving them to a digital thing later.
Yeah, there's a new feature as well with notes, and it's that the heading one are collapsible. So I'm testing it now inside a virtual machine on my MacBook Pro.
Nice.
And that's the first thing I noticed in Notes. I'm using Apple Notes for all my standard operation procedures. I have a bunch of headings everywhere, and now to be able to collapse everything, it's like, that's pleasant.
Yeah, that's nice. I always felt it was clumsy in Bear. And I think since I left Bear, they actually fixed this, but I remember some friction. It's pretty good in Obsidian, but yeah, that's a cool UI trick that's kind of caught fire, right? It's like, oh yeah, we could do this. Like we know anything under this heading just disappears when you toggle it.
Very good. So we're almost at the end of the episode. When I rebooted the podcast and the interviews, I thought about that question, like, so if you were in charge of the Mac division at Apple, then you could oversee hardware, software, and I will even add services because it's a big component of Apple's revenue right now. So what would be your number one priority?
I could say increase the free limit for iCloud if we're talking services, but I'm actually going to go, I think a big benefit of having like processor parity on the iPad and the Mac means that we could also have like software parity over there. And so I think I would probably task the Mac OS team with making it iPad compatible. And it doesn't have to be like take over the whole thing. But I would love to have some Mac elements on my iPad because, like I said in the beginning of the show, the main reason I have the MacBook Air is because I feel a lot more comfortable on the Mac. But I also love the fact that I can basically like rip my iPad in half, right, and take the keyboard off of it and make it this portable device. And so, some hybrid machine is I think the main thing that I would try to push if I was in charge of the Mac hardware and software.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good one. So Joe, yeah, it was a pleasure having you on the show. And so where can people find you?
Casabona.org is the best place because that'll have like links to everything I do. Casabona.org/desk will have my entire setup. I need to update it because I bought some new things. I usually update it twice or three times a year. But Casabona.org/desk will have, again, my current desk picture and breakdown, as well as a link to my Stream Deck blog post. So you can actually see my Stream Decks, and there's like a button by button breakdown of what each one does.
Yeah, I've had a look at that just before the episode, and I was super impressed by how you documented not only your Stream Deck, but your entire setup with links everywhere. I would say I'm very impressed by that.
Thank you very much. I think my favorite thing about the desk page is that because I've been doing it for so long now, it also serves as an archive for what my desk used to look like because, you people see what you have now and they think you just have that now, right? It's almost like watching an Olympian win the gold medal and think they just like walked onto the scene and won that gold medal. And so like having the archive of like, hey, This is what my desk looked like when I started 10 years ago. It doesn't look anything like that today because I've built it up over time.
Thank you, Joe. For you, the listener, if you would like to share how you're using your Mac to run your solopreneur business, it's very simple. You just visit macpreneur.com/apply. You fill the application form and I will get back to you within a few days. So once again, it's macpreneur.com/apply. So that's it for today. And until next time, I'm Damien Schreurs, wishing you a great day.
Thank you for watching the Macpreneur podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave a comment and share it with a friend right now.